All right, thank you. Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you all are doing well. My name is Garrett Smith, and I'm the statewide organizer for the Center for Community Alternatives and a member of the Clean Slate New York Coalition. We are here today to call on our lawmakers. We're here to call on them, right? We're here to call on them to reconvene this summer and to pass the Clean Slate Act. We need this act passed. We need it now. We need it this summer. Can't keep waiting for this. New York State, New York State, we got to come on. The Empire State must hold everyone accountable within this. And we cannot keep delaying justice for 2.3 million New Yorkers any longer. It's too many. It's too many New Yorkers that are continuing to be shackled by their convictions and continuing to have the perpetual exclusion from the state's economy and civic life. The urgency of this policy is undeniable. It truly is. The urgency of it is undeniable. And we're on the brink of passage. We're right there. I kind of want everybody to think of a marathon, at a 26.2 miles that it takes to run that race, to complete that race. Right now, we're in at point two. We're in the point two of that race. We're in the last stretch, and we can cross that finish line. It's right there. We can cross it together. That's how I feel about it. That's how I truly feel, that we are in the last stretch of this and we can do it. The Senate and the Assembly, they already reached a two-way agreement on this legislation. And there's a clear commitment. There's a true, clear, and bona fide commitment from both houses to get this legislation, to get Clean Slate over the finish line. And we could do this together. We're not asking them to just do it for us. We're doing it together. We're going to cross the finish line together. And we cannot wait until 2022. That's too far along. It's too far out. We can't wait that long. We need it this summer. We need it now. New Yorkers need Clean Slate, and we need it now. We really do. We must end this perpetual punishment. For all those who have old conviction records, who continue to face these barriers, right? To continue to face barriers to jobs, barriers to housing, barriers to education, no matter what amount of atonement they have done, no matter how many hurdles they jump through, there's still barriers. And these barriers are paper handcuffs that really shackle people. It prevents us. It really prevents us year after year, even after years of successfully completing sentences. Entire families are suffering. Entire communities are suffering this perpetual punishment. This perpetual punishment is fueling generational curses. It's fueling generational traumas. We're here to break these cycles. Clean Slate can and Clean Slate will help us accomplish this. Clean Slate isn't a handout. I just want that to be clear. Clean Slate isn't a handout. What Clean Slate does is offer a real and a fair second chance, having us as New Yorkers be able to empower ourselves, to really be able to contribute to our families, provide for our families, and contribute to our communities. Because of this, though, we got to understand, because of how this system is currently set up, there's systemic racism in policing and in prosecution. We see this. We see 80% of people who have conviction records are Black and Latinx, exacerbating racial injustices and racial inequities in employment and housing. We just can't do that. Come on, New York, we're better than that, right? We have to move New York forward. We're the Empire State. This bill isn't just a random run-of-the-mill bill. It's not your everyday bill. This bill is a jobs bill. This bill is a housing bill. This bill is a racial justice bill. And for all New Yorkers, which is the one thing that I see as an important reason above all these reasons are greatly important. But one of the things that it does, it offers public safety. This is a public safety bill. Our communities are safe and our communities are healthy only when all of us meet our basic needs. And Clean Slate does that. Clean Slate can do that. And Clean Slate will do that because it will be passed. It will be passed this summer, right? We're not waiting till 2022. We're not trying to wait that long. People need this now. People are trying now, and they need that help and they need that support with Clean Slate. It can do that. So today you will hear the voices of those who have suffered the perpetual punishment. This perpetual punishment that we still see that's part of the systemic imbalance. Perpetual punishment of a conviction record. In their own words, they'll tell you. They'll tell you. They're going to tell me. They're going to tell us, right? They're going to tell us in their own words what they're dealing with and what they're going through and what they're trying to overcome with their own perseverance and how Clean Slate can help them with this along this battle. Because Clean Slate, we can't wait for this. We can't wait. You know, we all will hear from our sponsors, our co-sponsors of Clean Slate, that's both in the Senate and the Assembly. We're going to hear from them. We're going to hear how they understand it and how they're supporting this. We're also going to hear from civil rights groups. We're going to hear from our faith-based leaders. See, Rabbi Eli is here today. You know, we're going to hear. We're going to hear from our faith-based leaders. We're going to hear from our business and union leaders. We're going to hear how they understand this and they understand the urgency in this and how the time is now. The time to pass Clean Slate is now. It's now. It's not later. It's now. We are here today to raise our voices in unison. We are raising it in unison, and we are demanding New York. We are demanding to have a fair chance, a real chance, a bona fide second chance, not to just live, not to just survive, but to thrive in our communities, to be providers in our communities, to be caretakers of our communities and of our families. We need this. We are here and we are demanding for a real second chance. Second chance to just gain employment. Second chance to just gain housing. Simple things in life. But the one simple thing in life that I feel connects all of us as human beings, right? Because that's what we are. We're not commodities. We're not statistics. We're not just names and numbers. We're human beings. And the one thing that will connect us all as human beings is that simple dignity of providing and caring for our families. Just living a sovereign life as a citizen in this country, in this state. We are here to say that our communities deserve a clean slate. This is why we need this clean slate. Now is the time to pass the Clean Slate Act. This is our chance, right? This is our chance. This is our opportunity. This is our duty. It is our duty to raise our voices in unity and to demand that New York State end perpetual punishment. We need to end this. Perpetual punishment is just contributing to that cycle. It's contributing to these generational curses that everybody knows about and everybody talks about. Clean Slate is going to help us do something about that. You know, we have it. People served their time. They paid their price. They're continuing to pay their price and they're continuing to show and prove how they're valuable and how they are human beings just like the rest of us. They're contributing members in our communities. Clean Slate. Clean Slate, it cannot wait. And it's more urgent than ever. It is more urgent than ever. The time is now, and the time for passage is now. Clean Slate can't wait. We can't wait. We can't keep doing this for us. We can't keep doing this for the people that we care about. We can't just keep turning a blind eye to this. Clean Slate is a bill that is of action. It helps empower this person. It's not a handout. It's not something that's just, oh, okay. No, that's not what we're doing here. Clean Slate is something that's going to empower people, help people empower themselves and move their lives forward. You know, so with that being said, I want to introduce our first speaker. She has a powerful story. She's going to share this with you guys. And she's an impacted leader with the Center for Community Alternatives. And I want to give her the floor. So I'm going to say good afternoon to you, Serena Sharp. The floor is yours. And I just want you to be able to share your story and share your piece on why Clean Slate is so important and why it needs to be passed now, this summer. If you just unmute yourself, they're going to hear your voice loud and clear. We're good. We got your audio. We just got to hear you.
Okay. Is it on me? Because I was getting disconnected. Okay.
No, it's on you. You good.
So my name is Serena. Oh, okay, I got kicked out, but I'm back. So my name is Serena Sharp, and for Clean Slate, it's really important for me because 13 years ago, when I was 17, I was convicted of a felony drug sale. And, you know, I was incarcerated. I completed parole and have not had any issues since. But I've paid my debt to society, but I'm still being punished. I'm constantly turned down for jobs. And even when I was released from being incarcerated, I filled out 73 applications. And these were just basic jobs, like retail jobs, and I got denied for most of them, directly because of that felony. So forward to me trying to get into colleges and universities, I was turned down, for almost everything. And I did end up getting accepted. Even with the 2 degrees that I have, it's still hard to get a job. I'm still turned down for accounting and professional jobs that I'm fully qualified for. Trying to find housing, decent housing in a nice area. Everybody's doing a background check. They need references, to see they want to look at my credit and see my grades for school to even consider me for a home for me and my son. So the difference it would make for me if this bill passes is I would finally be able to have redemption. The perpetual punishment would end at that point. I would have a fair chance for jobs. I'm actually waiting, hoping this bill goes through because I want to apply for my master's degree, but I know that I can't get into that college with that on my background. They won't care how long I've been without a crime or what I've done since then. And these are experiences I don't want other people to go through. They shouldn't have to suffer endlessly for something that they did years and years ago. There should be a certain amount of time where people can actually have a fair chance, a second chance, because they've proven themselves. Especially because it's already hard enough to reintegrate into society with a background. It's already hard enough, and it's like you don't have a choice to do the right thing. They don't even give you the option anymore to show yourself and to prove that you are a good person and that you can do the job, or you go to the school and not commit a crime. So to summarize, myself and 2.3 million other New Yorkers are calling on the legislature to reconvene and to vote this summer for Clean Slate. It really can't wait. We've been waiting for long enough. And quite frankly, I'm waiting to see if this bill goes through so that way I can use my degrees and pursue more professional jobs and the master's degree. So I'm hoping this goes through so that way I can continue on with my life. And that's all I have.
There we go. Okay. Can you guys hear me well? I just want to make sure you hear me well. All right, perfect. One thing that you mentioned, Serena, is redemption. And redemption is extremely powerful. It is powerful and it is needed. You are already atoning. And you mentioned a lot of things you're doing to atone. And redemption is something that's powerful. And we need our lawmakers to understand. They believe in second chances. They believe in the power of redemption. Clean Slate is the action with that. Faith and works, right? Faith and works. Faith in the redemption, faith in the second chance. Clean Slate is the works to that. One huge champion of this, one huge sponsor of this. I'm very honored to introduce the next speaker, Senator Myrie. Senator Myrie is the sponsor of Clean Slate, on the Clean Slate Act. The floor is yours, brother. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Garrett, and thank you for your passion and honesty. Serena, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing your story. I know that that's not an easy thing to do, so we are very grateful for you sharing that with us today. Everyone else is going to say this much more eloquently than I am, but Clean Slate truly cannot wait. And for those of us who are watching what's happening, now I've only been in the legislature going on 3 years now, but where else can you see a coalition built like the one that we have assembled? Where else do you see titans of the finance industry, the largest municipal union in the entire country, the largest nursing union in the entire state, people from all walks of faith, leaders in our faith community, members of our law enforcement community, leaders in the community, leaders in our regular communities, and even some district attorneys who are all in support of us giving people a second chance. We cannot wait to get this done. There is a reason why all of us here are assembled in unison fighting for Clean Slate. And that's because we understand the power of rehabilitation. We understand the power of redemption. And we know, as was said earlier, that this is much more than wiping the record clean. This is about opportunity. This is about public safety. This is about housing. This is about education. We have a moral imperative to pass Clean Slate, not later, not next year, but to do it now. You know, for those of us who are fans of basketball, we saw the Nets get this close to beating the Bucks within inches in a game 7. And they lost, and it was tough. And I got to tell you, I was feeling like Kevin Durant at the end of this legislative session because we were so close to getting it done. But you know what you do when you lose? You put your uniform back on, you go back into the gym, and you start putting up those shots again because you know that you can ultimately win. And I think we are going to do the same thing with Clean Slate. We got to put our uniforms back on. We got to get back into the session. We got to pass this bill, and I believe that we can do it. And so I am so honored to be joined by all of you in this fight, and we are not going to give up. We are going to deliver on this, and Clean Slate cannot wait. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Myrie. You know, again, moral imperative. It's a moral imperative, and the race is not over. We're still in this. It's still that point too. With that, I want to introduce our next speaker, Senate Deputy Majority Leader Michael Gianaris. You're up, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Garrett. And thanks, Senator Myrie, for his great leadership. I'm a Knicks fan, so the Nets analogy doesn't work so much on me, but the same thing applies to the Knicks this season. They got to get back on it, just like we all do on this issue. And thank you, Serena, for sharing your story. It's people like you who are more impactful than the rest of us on issues like this. And I see Assemblywoman Cruz has joined as well as the Assembly sponsor. There's been eloquent speakers before and after me about why we need to do this for the sake of our values, our morality, and for the sake of the people who have been incarcerated and are trying to re-enter society. I want to talk a little bit about how dumb it is for anyone to oppose a proposal like this. It is the definition of cutting off your nose to spite your face. Let's say someone doesn't agree with a lot of what we're saying, but is concerned about crime in our communities. If someone gets out of serving their time and we don't help them get on their feet, we don't help them get a job, we don't help them get educated, and instead we make it harder for them, the likelihood of recidivism is way higher. The likelihood of additional instances of crime in our communities is going to go through the roof. We should all be pulling in the same direction and realizing that what we need to do is make it easier for people to get work, easier for people to get schooling, easier for people to provide for their families. And then that will benefit everybody, no matter what side of this issue you're coming from. So that is, for me, there's a lot of criminal law issues we've all been involved in. Senator Myrie's led on a number of them. I've tried to get involved in a number of them. And there's a lot of disagreement. This one shouldn't be a source of controversy in my mind. And we should be able to get everyone on board. We almost got it done a few weeks ago. And we should get it done as soon as we possibly can to keep things moving in the right direction for so many people. So my support is there. I'm looking forward to getting it across the finish line soon, and watching Senator Myrie dunk on in the Senate in celebration of getting this enacted into law. Thank you all very much for your great activism.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. One of the things you said that really resonates: unity. We need unity. We can't be divisive on this. It's common sense law. It's a common sense bill. It's common sense and intelligence. That's what we need. With that, I want to introduce our next speakers. They have gone through a lot together, and they are continuing to persevere. They're both impacted leaders with the Center for Community Alternatives. I want to introduce them. Two beautiful ladies really have a powerful story they want to express. Michelle Vecchio and Deborah Hopkins. You guys are up. You guys are up, and please feel free to share your realest sense and your story, how you have it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Del Vecchio. And first of all, I want to express how very grateful I am to finally have a voice for something I haven't had a voice for in ever. I'm 50 years old. I've spent 10 years of my life incarcerated, and I have multiple felonies walking away from that incarceration. While incarcerated, I did everything they asked of me, plus more, was a model inmate. And my whole objective to doing that was because I wanted to re-enter society as a productive member. I wanted to have things. I figured this out. I made a grave mistake, but I wanted to do something different with my life. So I came out with high hopes. I believed, because I did all of this while incarcerated, that my life was finally going to be better, only to have roadblock after roadblock. Every time you fill out an application and it has that dreaded question, have you ever been convicted of a crime? I know in my heart of hearts, as soon as I check yes and put we'll discuss in the interview, I'm not getting a phone call. I learned early on, after being turned down multiple times by not getting phone calls and it being a stipulation of my parole, I better start checking no and just pray they don't check. I got a break. I got a job. It was a decent job. I went in and told my parole officer, and he said, "Did you tell them you're a felon?" I lied and said yes, only to have him show up the next day to my job. And I lost it, which got me incarcerated again because I didn't meet the criteria. I didn't have a job. So I said, I'm going to do it different this time. Again, very hopeful. I came home and had roadblock after roadblock with employment. I got jobs here and there, but they weren't the jobs that I knew I was capable of doing. I put myself through school and all that. I knew I was intelligent. I knew I was capable of having a good job, only I couldn't seem to get one based on my felonies. I really thought that wouldn't be a barrier. I convinced myself that once I got out, things would be okay. And it saddens me that I have to be perpetually punished over and over. I did my time. And I don't even want to talk about housing because I can afford to live in the best neighborhood. Only I can't live in the best neighborhood because every time they do a background check on me, I get denied. They make up a lame excuse like, oh, it's about your credit. They never come out and say it's about that. But I know based on my sister being a realtor that that's what it is. So what I figured out was let me go to school. Let me be a peer advocate, a specialist, because I know I can have a background and do that. Put myself through school, got a paid internship at CCA Core Center in Rochester, New York, and they decided to hire me as a temp. Now here I am thinking finally something opened up for me. You know, once again, I went to school. This is a sure thing, only to once again have OASIS say, I have to prove that I'm rehabilitated and that I am no longer a threat to society. Now I have a good God because I do have this temp position because OASIS deemed me rehabilitated. But when does this stop? When does this end? When do I stop being punished over and over and over for something I've done that I've paid my time for? So the bottom line is, what do I want? I want a clean slate. I deserve it. I earned it. I want it. And when do I want this? I want this now. And it's like I'm demanding it now. Why can't I want to be heard? I'm a decent person. I earn my living. I can pay my rent. I deserve good housing. I deserve a good job. And I should not have to keep over and over and over paying the price and being perpetually punished. I thank you all so much for me finally having a voice. You're up.
Yeah.
So I just,
Hi, my name is Deborah Hopkins, and Michelle's my partner of 19 years. So basically, I've been going through it with her. And it's been a roadblock. We managed, when she got incarcerated, every time she came out, we were all this hopefulness, hoping we can get things going, with the education and things. And because of the situation that with her coming out of prison and her background, it's almost like we were forced to live apart because the people wouldn't give us housing because of her background. So I'm going through it with her because I'm not going to live apart from you. And so we were forced to live in places like crack neighborhoods and people where they sell drugs and this and that, which is like, we shouldn't have to live that way if she's paid her dues, but I'm not gonna, it just made it so difficult because of the fact that the housing, they won't give her a chance. And so we end up we get in these apartments where they're just totally not up to our standards. And they take the same amount of money out of our check if we're living in a crack infested neighborhood as if I was living in a neighborhood that was in a neighborhood where we want to send our grandkids to school in the suburbs, but we're not allowed to live in the suburbs because of her criminal record. So it's very important that we have a clean slate now so that we can raise our family, our grandchildren, and have them come over and not have them where there's gunshots and people are running in and out buying drugs. And, who wants to live like that? And, they look at us, they say, oh, great. They want to rent us an apartment. Soon as the background check comes back. Maybe we've already rented it or this and that. We know the reason, but it's not like, we like things in life they don't understand. We like the same things they do. We want to go on a boat. We do all these things. But as soon as the background, when they look at us, they're like, okay. But then as soon as the background comes back, we're denied. So we need that clean slate, and we need it now.
Thank you, Deb, and thank you, Michelle. Very powerful, very powerful.
Thank you.
Like you said, Clean Slate is a jobs bill. Clean Slate is a housing bill. Clean Slate is a public safety bill. So with that, I want to introduce our next speaker, sponsor from the Assembly, a sponsor of the Clean Slate Act, Speaker Catalina Cruz. Catalina, you're up.
Thank you, Garrett. Z, so good to see you. Ready to put that uniform back on and get out on that court. And I mean, if we take a cue from what Michelle just said and thank you, Michelle, for sharing that. Michelle never gave up. No matter how many obstacles have come at Michelle never gave up. So Z and I are not giving up. We can't give up because people's lives are literally depending on our willingness and ability and just strength to keep pushing forward. So I am ready to go back if we end up getting called back for an emergency session. And if we're going to pass it early, I am ready and willing and able. And if we end up having to wait a little longer, I'm ready for that too. I don't want to wait. Michelle doesn't want to wait. The over 2 million people and families that are going to benefit from this don't want to wait, and they shouldn't have to wait. And we have this notion, and I've said it before, that our criminal justice system is meant to rehabilitate people. It's not. It wasn't created. It was created like that for the rich white folk, for the folk who can afford the lawyers to get them off. But it wasn't meant like that for people of color, for working people, for the folks who for decades, like Michelle, like her partner, and like the other folks who have come time and time again to meet with us, to talk to us, to went up to Albany the last week we were there. For those folks, if we don't do this, this is a criminal justice system that is going to keep them perpetually until the end of time, making them pay for a crime that we're not going to get into that, but maybe they even didn't commit. And even if they did, they've paid their dues. And why aren't we actually putting in place the tools to give them that opportunity, especially over the last year where we've had people who, if you think that we had people suffer when they lost their job, imagine the folks with a criminal record who probably had a job that they could rely on, and all of a sudden that job is gone because maybe that business closed. And now they got to struggle and start from zero all over again. And so I can tell you that I and many of my colleagues, and I think I saw Damon is here, and Latrice, I see her on the screen too. We're supportive, and we're gonna fight for this because we know that it's simply the right thing to do. It's simply the right thing to do. And we've heard some of the naysayers, try to scare people. Someone actually asked me when I was in an interview with the press yesterday, well, are you letting them all go free? And I said, well, I think the notion that they weren't supposed to be free in the first place because it's for people who have already come out of the system is what's wrong with this entire conversation. These are folks who went to jail, paid their dues, and are now perpetually in this box that they can't get out of. What the bill is going to do is give them that actual freedom that they were promised. And so, yeah, this is meant to let people go free from a criminal justice system that keeps on screwing their lives. And so I'm going to keep it short because I want to hear from other folks. But before I go, I do want to once again thank the Clean Slate Coalition for the support and the unending love that you have given Zellner and I through this fight. And we're going to return it by getting you that signature, by getting you that bill passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Cruz. Very well spoken. We are calling on our legislators to reconvene this summer. We need to keep fighting, right? We got to continue that fight and reconvene this summer and continue to keep pushing until Clean Slate is passed. Clean Slate, pass it now, right? The next speaker that I want to pass it to is Michelle Crensell. Really hope I didn't butcher your name, Michelle. Sorry if I did. She's Michelle's political director for New York State Nurses Association. Michelle, you're up.
Thank you. You totally didn't butcher my last name. I'm really glad to be here and, honestly, just to support our allies in this fight. And thank you so much to Michelle and Serena for sharing your stories. It's really your stories and experiences that propel this movement forward. And, we owe you our accountability to make sure that we get this done. As an organization of nurses, our priority is the health and well-being of all New Yorkers, of our communities, right? We want to be able to make sure that everyone has access to quality care, but we know that that's not enough if we don't recognize and directly address the social determinants of health. And that means access to safe housing, living wage jobs, quality education, and other services that really directly affect the health outcomes of the communities that we serve. And I think other folks have already said that this is a racial justice issue, this is an economic justice issue. It disproportionately impacts communities of color and lower income communities. And so there's really an urgent need to just stop the perpetual punishment and collateral consequences that are really only serving to reinforce these existing inequalities that are tearing our communities apart. So as folks want to talk about recovering and building up from this pandemic, we just have to stop choosing to leave millions of New Yorkers behind. We can't keep doing that. And so if we really want a just recovery, Clean Slate is a part of that. So we're really excited to be here to support and, let's get this done.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. I'm gonna keep moving this train right along. Next person we're gonna have speak is Jamila Edwards. Jamila Edwards, Associate Director of District Council 13. Jamila.
Hey,
37. Sorry.
37, you got it. Thank you so much for having me. I'll keep it short. I have to, ask the question of why do we send folks for what we call rehabilitation and then not allow them the grace and the redemption and set them up to be successful? This is a common sense problem here. Our legislatures, the coalition that is here today has put together a bill, a proposal that would allow common sense to be restored to this process. And we just can't talk about successful reentry without creating policies and supporting initiatives and laws and putting laws in place that create a just process. It's just nonsense. So I'm thankful for the work that everybody has done thus far. DC 37 and the 150,000 workers that we represent care about this bill, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because this is impacting our communities, this is impacting our members. We represent majority of Black and Brown folks working in city service, and this impacts their family, it impacts their community, it impacts our future workforce here in New York City. So we're always proud to be standing here with you all, want to keep on pushing, and we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that we get across the finish line. So thank you to you all, and let's just keep the fight going. This is past due. It's time to pass this.
Thank you, Jamila. It's definitely time. With that, I want to introduce our next speaker, Wayne Harris, former Deputy Chief of Police in Rochester and spokesperson for the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, also known as LEAP.
So thank you, Garrett. I appreciate the invitation to come in and speak with all of you today. I'm going to keep my comments as brief as everyone else. However, first, I do want to offer my condolences to Senator Myrie, because it was clear how utterly devastated he was by the loss of Brooklyn. And I feel for him. And if he ever wants to come to Rochester, we can hang out and I'll buy him a beer. Hey, listen, so, I spent 30 years with the Rochester Police Department, and I've seen the way over-incarceration, re-incarceration, recidivism has not only impacted the people that are involved, the families of the people involved, but it's also impacted our community. And, we say all the time that we want a safer community, that we want, good schools and good education. And the problem with the opponents to a clean slate legislation is that their short-sighted view of why they're opposing this only perpetuates all that they say they don't want in our community. This is not a problem that's happening today. When we spoke at the hearing earlier this year, I mentioned, being involved in arresting a young man that I had witnessed committing crimes over and over and over again. One of the things I didn't mention was that, I had a conversation with that young man's mother at one point, and she was very clear. She told me, listen, I don't have to do a thing to help you because he's bringing in money to this house. And that's sad, because we left that young man, and then he became an adult. We left him only the opportunity to commit crime in order to survive, in order for his mother to survive. So all those things that they say they don't want are further perpetuated by constantly keeping people that have been incarcerated under the thumb of a government that says they want to do things right, but doesn't necessarily show that in their actions. I want to finish by saying this too. We have seen over the past year the way divisiveness has destroyed our communities. We label ourselves constantly, from Black, white, Republican, Democrat, straight, gay. We are continuing to categorize ourselves to the point where we cannot connect. And we're doing the same thing to the unfortunate people that have been incarcerated and are still existing under that system that does not allow them to progress and does not allow them to proceed and become successful in life. I want to live in a community where we're healthy. And I appreciate Michelle coming up and speaking her truth. I appreciate Serena speaking her truth. And quite honestly, there is as difficult as it's been for Michelle, there are the success stories. But there are thousands out there. And that 2.3 million that we speak about, if each of those people live with someone else or have loved ones, we're talking in upwards of 5 to 10 million New Yorkers that are impacted by the system that has failed us completely. So I strongly urge you, LEAP strongly urges you to pass this legislation, go back into session. It's summertime, let's all drive to Albany. I'll meet you there. I'll buy the senator a beer that I just promised him. Let's get this done, because it's time for us to start making some changes and being healthy. Let me say one last thing too. I meant to say this before. The opposition, the rhetoric that they show is not based in science. It's based in fear. And if you continue to legislate based on fear, then we'll never get anywhere. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to come in and speak with you all today. I stand in solidarity with you, and let's go.
Let's go indeed. Let's go. Thank you for that, Wayne. Thank you, Wayne Harris. Appreciate it. Next person we're going to go into is Rabbi Healy Harper. Sorry if I messed that up a little bit. Rabbi Healy Harper, Central Synagogue.
Thank you so much, Garrett. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Rabbi Hilly Haber, and I work for Central Synagogue in Midtown Manhattan. As you have already heard, there are 2.3 million New Yorkers living with histories of conviction. 2.3 million mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, wives, and husbands living in an almost permanent state of exile, which begins with incarceration, but does not end when they return home. Perpetual punishment and unending exile are foreign concepts in Jewish tradition. Unlike our criminal legal system in New York and in states across the country, punishment is neither permanent nor an end in itself according to Jewish law and ethics. The purpose of punishment in Jewish tradition is teshuvah, repentance, atonement, and a full return home with a clean slate. This is how communities thrive and flourish, our Jewish sages teach us, when people are able to return and fully participate. But beyond Jewish tradition, beyond even our criminal legal system, in its challenge to states of perpetual exile, which prevent people from full participation in our economy, the Clean Slate Act challenges overarching systems of social and economic injustices at work in our state and country. To limit or impede access to healthcare and education, someone's ability to participate in the workforce and the housing market is not only permanent or perpetual punishment, but it's also to perpetuate and maintain a racially charged American caste system. Perpetual punishment is just one tool of a larger social and economic structure which uses everything at its disposal to maintain its power and reach. In a country founded on the principles of equality and freedom, any application of law which keeps people in perpetual states of punishment and exile is anathema to the values America professes to hold so dear. To our lawmakers and elected officials listening today, and to all New Yorkers listening today, if you feel a sense of fatigue around criminal justice reform, or if you feel like we've done enough already this year, then imagine how exhausting it must be to apply and reapply for housing and for jobs, only to be turned down again and again because of a mistake your younger self made over a decade ago. The Clean Slate Act is not only money-saving, it is also life-saving. It breathes a new spirit of liberation and freedom beyond our legal system, beyond even our state. It is time to end perpetual punishment and perpetual exile. It is time to remove the constraints which ultimately keep all New Yorkers from thriving.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to go right into our next speaker. We're going to keep the train going. Assembly Member Latrice Walker, Chair of Elections Committee. You're up.
So thank you for this opportunity. I feel like, the Clean Slate Coalition, Catalina, Mike, Zell, Nora, I don't know, like we are all a part of one fabric, I think, at this point. And we are just so inextricably intertwined that when I think about the sort of legacy that we be leaving behind as legislators, I'm honored to know that it would be synonymous with fighting for criminal justice at every level. We recognize that Juneteenth just passed us by. It was a great day. It was a celebratory moment. But I kept asking myself, like, what are we celebrating? What's really happening here? And I have a theme song that keeps sort of reverberating through each and every time I speak in a criminal justice setting, because one thing that when folk quote Harriet Tubman and the quote is, she could have freed so many more slaves if they had known they were slaves. I feel like that mantra still exists today, because we know that the 13th Amendment, which was celebrated, though, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863, but the 13th Amendment wasn't signed and ratified until 1865. So it took 2 years for folk in Galveston, Texas to even realize that slavery had been quote, abolished, but they kept folk in the dark, just like they do when they release our brothers and sisters from these upstate criminal justice systems, not knowing their rights that are owed to them and not even knowing what they should be empowered to have. But we know that slavery was abolished. Slavery, nor indentured servitude, because someone asked me the other day when I said that slavery is abolished except in the case of criminal punishment. And they were like, well, what about our Caucasian brothers and sisters or people from other races who were incarcerated? Does that apply to them? So I think that there's a system of indentured servitude that even existed here that again perpetuates Black codes, selling people into industries that are based on economics, core craft, where we even have a government system that purchases from the labor of people who are incarcerated and pulled out of the streets and placed into these institutions where your fate is either in a 6-foot box being 6 foot under or in a 6 foot by 6 foot jail cell. And then they're working for pennies on the dollar. And so we look and again, it's like Juneteenth is here, but I don't get what the celebratory moment is about. Yes, you acknowledge how incredibly fucked up you have been to an entire group of people that not only puts no value on our lives, but it also takes the value off of our children's lives when we think about ACS and the school to prison pipeline and how it's like, how do we even come out of this? So you're right. Clean slate is easy. It's low-hanging fruit. It allows an opportunity to just be able to be a productive citizen in society. Who the hell wants to live in NYCHA half of the time? But because of people's criminal records, you can't even go back into a NYCHA development where you have your family.
Oh, I think her audio disconnected. She was on too much fire. Oh man. Hopefully some member of Latrice will be able to reconnect. She was on a roll. Too much fire. Yeah, I think she broke her internet. But we're gonna keep it going. She burnt the mic. Yes. We're gonna keep it going. The next speaker we're gonna have is Claire Dorfman. She's with JP Morgan and Chase. Claire, you're up.
Thanks so much, Garrett. It's great to be here. As you mentioned, I'm here on behalf of JP Morgan Chase, proudly one of the largest employers here in the state of New York. You want me to keep going? Just come back on. Okay. I'm happy to join this distinguished and inspirational panel today.
Your earphones are affecting me.
All right, I'll keep going. In support of clean slate legislation in New York and urge passage of the bill when the legislature reconvenes. The drag on earning potential of tens of millions of Americans with criminal or arrest records are costs not only borne by individuals, their families, and their communities, but also have larger economic consequences to both business and society. Clean slate legislation can help change this. As we continue to recover from the pandemic, businesses are adapting every day to economic conditions and resuming their search for skilled workers. By reducing barriers to employment for those with criminal records, we'll be able to get more people back to work quicker. JP Morgan Chase is committed to giving people a second chance here in New York and across the country through hiring, philanthropic investments, and by advancing a policy agenda at the federal, state, and local level. To help broaden our talent pipeline, we have banned the box, proactively removing all questions about criminal backgrounds from job applications. And we're also enhancing our hiring strategy to give applicants with criminal backgrounds the resources that they need to pursue opportunities here at JP Morgan Chase. For example, in 2020, we hired more than 2,100 people with criminal backgrounds. That's about 10% of new hires here in the US whose history had no bearing on the requirements of the job they were seeking. So with a workforce of more than 30,000 people in New York State, JP Morgan Chase is always in need of top talent to fill these positions. We recently joined a group of 30 companies, including a number based here in New York, to join the Second Chance Business Coalition, which is proudly co-chaired by our chairman and CEO, Jamie Dimon. The coalition's goal is to expand hiring and advancement practices for people with criminal records within their companies. So today, we urge that Clean Slate be passed and signed into law. It will only help bolster the state's economy by more fully tapping the talents of thousands of people who are currently unemployed or underemployed because of their criminal record. When someone cannot get their foot in the door to compete for a job, it hurts business and communities by limiting access to economic opportunity. Thanks so much for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for that. Thank you for really focusing on how this is a jobs bill. Latrice, Assemblymember Latrice, you were on fire, and I want to circle back to you because I want you to be able to finish your bill. It was a powerful bill. You had a powerful message you were sharing, so the floor is yours.
Yo, they were like, she mentioned Corecraft. Oh no, oh no, oh no. We can't talk about how our state and city and localized governments are benefiting off the back of keeping people in a perpetual state of slavery. So again, you know how I feel. Again, this is our abolitionist moment. And we are each abolitionists on this fight for freedom, justice, and equality, not just here in New York City, of course, around the state, but quite frankly, all around the country. New York has been a part of this movement to really lead the way. And I think it's time for us to join our neighboring states. Virginia has done it. I want to say Pennsylvania has done this. And so it's time now for New York State to recognize that it is our moment. But of course, politics is not a spectator sport. And so our leaders, someone asked, how do we get this thing done? Our leaders need to understand that we support them. And that to the extent that people will come up against them for doing the right thing, as they have done on a time and time again, that we will be there to stand in the gap, to provide the protection, provide the cover in order for them to make the right decisions legislatively. So I'll go ahead on and end there. But of course, I am with you. I stand beside you, shoulder to shoulder, through it all. It has taken us 400 years to get to this point, but all of these rights that we enjoy today will take an eternity for us to protect. And we still yet have not gotten all that we are due. So thank you, keep the faith, and I'm here to continue on in the fight.
Thank you for that. Thank you for really closing that build out with just knowing that we're all shoulder to shoulder in this, and we're in this together, unified together to cross this line. With that, I want to pass it over to Assembly Member Demond Meeks. Brother, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. So in the words of DJ Cool, hey, yo, are y'all tired yet? Hell no. Are y'all ready to quit? Hell no. We got work to do. We thought this thing was going to happen this past session. It didn't. And we're committed to the work. We know for a fact that Clean Slate is a moral imperative, an economic imperative, a racial justice imperative. This is to the greater good of our communities. We see this summer, it's early. We see the struggles, we see the challenges throughout our communities. How do we change it? By working together collectively. We have to provide opportunity, not only for our children, but for their families. So we have to truly look at the intersectionality of the Clean Slate and how it's so beneficial to the state of New York. We're talking about billions of dollars that's untapped because we're refusing to give people opportunities. 2.3 million New Yorkers who are struggling, not being afforded an opportunity. So we're committed to this work. If it calls for us to go back this summer, so be it. But we need to put this at the top of our priority. So if it's starts at the beginning of the next session, let this be the first thing that we fight and we advocate for. But I think, in working with my colleagues, those who are on this call, your support, your commitment to this fight with you all, and we're committed to go on. Thank you all for your support and this effort, and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we're gonna, again, just let you guys know, it's a bill that is a jobs bill, an employment bill, a housing bill, a public safety bill. It's going to help all New Yorkers, and more importantly, that 2.3 million. With that, we're going to transition to our last speaker to wrap it up for us. Allison Fontier, President, New York Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys and Managing Director of Neighborhood Defender Services of Harlem.
Thanks, Garrett. As he said, I'm Alice Fontier, Managing Director of NDS Harlem. We have been providing holistic public defense in Harlem and the surrounding neighborhood for 30 years. Every day, we fight to protect our clients from the harmful and indelible impact of involvement in the criminal legal system. The Clean Slate Act is a critical and necessary step in the process of undoing the harm of our state's history of and ongoing structural racism. In the last decade, across this state, we have arrested between 250,000 and 500,000 people every single year. The overwhelming majority of those arrests are of Black and Brown people. As public defenders, we are acutely aware that the punishments our clients face do not end when they leave the criminal courthouse or walk out of prison. The stain of a criminal record is deep-seated and lasting. It touches nearly every facet of our clients' lives, from their access to stable housing and employment to educational and volunteer opportunities. It follows them and their families for years, stigmatizing them in a society where many employers, landlords, and officials are unwilling to see the person behind the record. It stratifies our world, and its influence reaches and shapes entire communities. Those of us who work in my field meet people who are harmed by their unsealed criminal records every day. Each person's stories like you heard today, and their circumstances are unique, but their experiences are bound together by a shared theme: the perpetual punishment of carrying a criminal record. We strongly support the advancement of the Clean Slate Act and call for a special legislative session to pass this act now. Current sealing and record relief mechanisms are wholly inadequate to allow people to support their families and avoid recidivism after contact with the criminal legal system. The only general sealing provision currently effective permits sealing in highly limited situations. An individual must wait a full 10 years after their last conviction, so long as they have no more than 2 convictions total. Only one of those convictions can be a felony, and it can't be classified as violent. These requirements are far too restrictive and fail to count for the over-policing of communities of color and the fact that a criminal record itself leads to recidivism. In short, our current sealing mechanisms deny our clients and their families a path to a dignified and safe life. While mechanisms like the Fair Chance Act, certificates of relief, and other anti-discrimination provisions provide some protections, they do not offer full opportunities for reentry. Only through the automatic sealing of a criminal record for civil purposes can this state ensure the end of perpetual punishment. By providing for the sealing of misdemeanors 3 years after sentencing and felonies 7 years after sentencing, the Clean Slate Act ensures individuals with a criminal record will be able to seek housing, employment, education, and all of the essentials of life more quickly after their conviction. Given that the Clean Slate Act applies to all criminal convictions, regardless of numbers or severity of offenses, it also ensures the equitable application of sealing and the opportunity for full reintegration. As we know too well, people of color are disproportionately impacted at every stage of criminal legal involvement, from arrest to plea negotiations, conviction and sentencing, resulting in more severe and more numerous convictions for non-white New Yorkers. Restricting sealing provisions in any way based on number and severity only perpetuates this inequity and limits the rehabilitative effects of the Clean Slate Act for those who need it most. The only way to end perpetual punishment of carrying a criminal record and reverse the collateral harm done to our clients, their families, and their communities is to enact sealing provisions that are broad, automatic, and effective in a reasonable timeframe. Clean Slate does this, and it must be passed now. Procedural hurdles and legislative time limits are no reason to prevent the passage of this critical act. Enough legislators support this bill for it to pass. They must come back to work. They must come back to work now and end this denial of justice. We demand no less.
Thank you. Thank you. Today, we have heard from lawmakers, we heard from union leaders, business leaders, faith leaders, law enforcement leaders, and impacted New Yorkers. Now is the time to pass Clean Slate. We need the legislators to reconvene this summer and get this done. Clean Slate can't wait. Clean Slate can't wait. Thank you.